Corey, first of all, welcome to London. How have you enjoyed your stay so far?
Thank you guys for having me in London. And so far, it's been pretty cool. Me and my coach yesterday, we spent a lot of days touring this area. We went down to London Bridge, Castle Bridge. Went up to London Eye and Big Ben at night. One of my buddies actually live out here for work, so he took us out to a nice place for dinner. It was pretty cool just to get to see the different sites and read the history behind everything.
Yeah. Nick Catone's over with you at the moment. Obviously, you're from the guys over there. Renzo, Gracie, Ricardo Almeida, Mark Henry. When's Mark getting in with you?
Mark won't get here till Saturday morning. You know, he just got back from Brazil with Edson, and then he has to turn back around and go somewhere else. Then he got Chris Weidman, those guys he's working with. So he can't afford to come right back from Brazil and take off to London. But that's all right, I understand.
Talk to me about that, your coaching setup over there. Obviously the guys, they sort of move around between Nick, between Renzo, between Mark. Who's exactly the head coach? What way does it work?
Everybody call Mark like the brains of the operation because he writes out the codes and he picks up the sparring schedule, who's going who, what round, when. But other than like a true head coach, I don't think we have one head coach that's like the leader of everything because everybody works together. Mark contacts Nick and says, work with Corey on this, or Nick could call Mark and be like, oh, he did good on this, but we need to work this with his movement, with his boxing, mixing his wrestling. And then they call Ricardo and say, when he gets to the ground, let's make sure he's got heavy pressure, working, trapping the elbow, things like that. So everybody has their job. So we just a team, the whole head is one team.
I think your stats were coming into this fight, your takedowns, you've taken down 7 of your last 8 opponents. Is that something obviously you want to do with Jimmy in this fight?
I mean, I plan to take everybody down. That's my bread and butter. It's why fix it if it's not broken. Like I said, even if they know it's coming, if you master something so well, it's hard to stop it. Yeah.
So, Corey, you go into this fight. It's a clash of styles of sort. Jimmy's well known for his striking, and your grappling prowess is well known. How do you think, from your perspective, you're going to deal with Jimmy's striking?
My movement is another big thing. Like most people focus on my wrestling, but like they also say, compare me to a bigger version of Frankie Edgar. And Frankie doesn't get hit that much unless he comes in carelessly. It's the same with me. The times I get clipped is when I come in carelessly. So as long as I'm moving, it makes it hard for people to hit me really. And I think that's going to throw him off a little bit. He likes to plant his feet, and like you said, throws everything with bad intentions. But it's hard to throw your bad intentions and plant your feet if someone's always moving left to right and back and forth.
Does the winner of this fight get a title shot? Is that what you're looking at?
I'm just getting the win on the fight. That's all I'm worried about right now. I can only worry about getting my hand raised Saturday. I can't worry about the future. Whatever the UFC does is what they do. I'm just here to fight.
Corey, they've been talking about this as a wrestler versus striker matchup. Do you think people are sleeping on your striking ability going into this one?
Oh, 100%. They've always slept on my striking. Even my debut, they kept talking, oh, Corey's going to hump his way through the UFC. He's going to go out there and just take this guy down and lay him pray and end up knocking him out in 60 seconds with all hands. That's the great thing, though. That's what it makes it easier for me to mix up things. When I start going up and down my level changes, they don't know if I'm punching, if I'm faking a shot, or where it is. So as I start faking, they usually level change to go to finish shot, and that's when I come back up with hands. And then the next time, I act like I'm throwing hands, and I go for a shot. They brace to come back with a hard punch, and I shoot underneath it. And that's what makes my style so great, as a mixed martial arts.
And do you think your diversity in those areas you've just mentioned is a key factor to the outcome of this fight?
I mean, my diversity in my game, period, is a key factor in every fight, to put everything together. Not to go out there and think, oh, I'm a knockout artist, so I'm going to knock his head off. And not to go out there and think, I'm a wrestler, so I'm going to take this guy down. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, I can get to the ground one way or another, or I can throw kicks. I go out there and think, I'm a mixed martial artist. If I see the opening to throw a fake shot and come up with the punches, I'm going to take it. If the opportunity is there, fake the punch for the takedown, I'm going to get it. If I can see he's getting tired, I know I can get him to the ground and finish the ground and pound. I'm just paying attention to all the openings, staying away.
What's the thought process when you're going up against a guy who he's a very aggressive, come-forward fighter? Are you going to be looking to counter and use his aggression against him, or are you going to look to try and push the pace and force him backwards?
A little bit of both, We got a guy like Jimmy, he's waiting for that big shot. So the biggest thing is make sure I don't stop moving. I can't let him plant his feet. And if I do see him start to plant his feet, I just got to know it's coming. Something's coming. It's coming. Get ready. Get ready to counter back or get ready to move, one of the two. So I just got to have my eyes open and have my awareness on the whole fight.
Do you see this fight as being your biggest challenge of your career to date?
200%. This is definitely the biggest fight of my career. Went into Jan Blachowicz, who's another strong hitter, striker. They were saying, oh, Corey's not prepared for that. you know. And I went out there and I beat him. Like, oh, well, he just out wrestling the guy gassed out. And now you got a guy like Jimmy who's a lot better than Jan, I believe. He's a lot better of a striker and he hits harder. You know, even though they went to the decision, that's the only fight he has in the UFC that went to the decision. You can also say Jan played a smart game, kind of like I did. He knew if he came forward, that was dangerous for him. So, with that being said, Jimmy is most definitely the hardest, the biggest opponent I've had, the biggest name for me to fight.
Talk to us about the fact you're now fighting in the main event. I believe when the fight was signed, it was originally a 3-round fight, so in theory it would have been somewhere on the main card. Talk to us about the call that told you were effectively being upgraded to the main event and how you're feeling about that. You know, it's the biggest platform of your career.
Yeah, when they actually called me, I went on a little vacation before I started my full camp, and they called me as I was getting on the plane in Mexico to head back to start camp, that you are not, it's the main event. Is that okay? Like, yeah, it's fine, you know, because I'm always training hard. I'm pushing for those extra rounds, helping my teammates like David Branch, guys who've been fighting championship 5-round fights in other organizations since I've been in the team Renzo Gracie. So I've always did 5 rounds at least since I've gotten there. So to push through that was easy, but now it's, okay, so just turn it up a couple more rounds. And now also it's easy transition. At first I was nervous, like, oh my God, I don't know how this is gonna work. But then I realized, like, I got cardio for days, like I can do this. And sure enough, I was doing 6-7 rounds, no problem. Like I told coach, like, man, it's like a Christmas present. Because first it's hard to get 3 5-minute rounds, you know, especially when I spend most of them on the ground, take guys down the ground and pound them. It's hard to get all my codes and everything I wanted to do going and show my full capabilities. But now I got 25 minutes. So I got those 2 extra rounds when the guy's probably tired and nowhere near close to energizing me, and that's when I'm just getting warmed up, and that's when things are going to start snapping off.
So this is
You had difficulties with checking leg kicks. Did you work on that, and how did you do it?
You know, I've always worked on checking the leg kicks. Since I came to Ricardo's, when I was on the Ultimate Fighter, they realized I didn't check kicks. That was one of the things they always worked on. But for some reason, when I get into the fights, like I eat the kicks, it doesn't bother me. Like after the Gian fight, they said I took 31 leg kicks, and the next day I ran 3 miles. Everybody like, his leg's gonna be mush. I got home out the car and ran 3 miles like nothing was wrong. It just doesn't bother. I guess the adrenaline, it doesn't bother me. But in practice, if I get kicked a couple times, it hurts like a son of a gun. So I'm checking like, okay, let's check everything. But in the fight, I eat the first one. I was like, okay, I didn't even feel it. So I'm not even worried about it. Just keep stepping through.
So this is a 5-round fight, as you stated. You know, in the main event. You know, being positive. There's another fight a few weeks away that potentially could lead to you gaining a title shot. Daniel Cormier is defending his title against Anthony Johnson. For you, who do you think will be the winner in that encounter?
I think DC is going to get it again. You know, like I said, being a well-rounded, and it's about being a mixed martial artist. Yes, Rumble, if you stand in front of him again, if you stand in front of Rumble, just like Jimmy, you're going to get slept because they throwing heavy hands. Just like Jimmy got slept by Anthony because he slipped up and was in front of him in a brawl. I mean, it's easy to happen to get clipped in this sport, definitely at 205 or heavyweight. But I think DC is going to keep his movement and keep Rumble chasing and get the takedown again.
We talk about your nickname, Corey. You were Beast in 25-8. You're now Overtime Anderson. Talk to us about why you changed that, because it was one of the more notable nicknames in the UFC. People knew who Beast in 25-8 is. Why did you change it?
I mean, they still know Beast in 25-8 is, and I'm still Beast in 25-8. They say it in the gym daily, but it's the same thing as Overtime. It's the same name. It's just easier to say. You can shorten it to OT. It makes more sense. And the biggest point for me that gave it to me is like the first gym I was at, they the ones that said Beast in 25-8. It was just a logo and a motto I said, and they gave me the name there. Like, that's just your fight name. That's what you do. And then Frankie Edgar and Eddie Alvarez preparing for 205 on the embedded. They just started shouting new names. Like, man, it's more like a time and a half. And then Frankie was like overtime. And everybody like, oh, you got to use that. Like, that's nice. You got to use it. So it just stuck. And I liked it. My family liked it. Me and my brother, we came up with the Beast in 25-8, which is a clothing brand, and he loved it. Like, that's way more fitting. And it's the same thing. Let's take it.
So you're still Beast in 25-8?
Oh, we're still Beast in 25-8. It's the brand. It's the same thing. I'm in the gym all day. If you in there 24/7, and I'm in there more than you, I'm 25-8. Most people working a 9 to 5. I'm working all day. I'm putting the overtime.